Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second edition of the Bobcast. We got myself, Bobby Bangers, also known as uh, David Climbs 3. I got my partner in crime, Bobby Black, also known as Horns. How you doing, Horns?
Doing good, Bobby. I'm excited, man. With the best fight night of in IBSF history last night. I can't wait to break down some of these big matchups.
Yeah, I think that was it was a really fun fight night. It was fun. I had the chance to announce a couple of the matches. I know we got Smokey and also Clayton in there for a couple of the matches. So it was a really fun night all around, and it's going to be exciting to dissect these matches and see just how each of them went. So I've got the content team picks from last week here, so we can just kind of go through, pick around at uh, our favorite matches, and then decide what we want, what we think the best ones are, talk about them, and then we also do have the fight of the night and KO of the night results, along with a special surprise for the end of the podcast.
All right, let's get into it.
So I guess we'll just start with, what do you think your favorite fight of the night was?
And Bobby, I hate to say it, but that Valente Martinez knockout on Bobby Bangers in 2 rounds was fun. I don't think anyone saw that one coming, and it was just really surprising. Kind of caught me off guard, and that was a good one. Great fights all around. The Pops Babino was amazing. Um, Let me see. The Mr. Cobb's last fight against Kevlio was great.
Yeah,
Those are probably my top three, but
no, I
I don't know.
think that
Pops and Babs was my fight of the night, so I think that might have been the best one. But
Pops and Babineau was electric. I mean,
yep,
no matter how many times Babineau went down, CD Pops just kept getting up. It was amazing to watch, amazing to
yep,
announce. And I also got to say, you're right. Kevlio versus Cobb was a really good match. I think that it was really nice to see um, Kevlio getting his best shot at redemption, and I think that he put up despite not getting a knockdown on Clayton, he put up a very good fight.
it's hard to beat Clayton Cobb, but I think Kevlio is going to be well, really, he'll be the only one to ever even sort of come close. So props to him. He's a good fighter, and he's going to own that division for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's gonna be Kevlio versus the world heading forward with Cobb's retirement. But looking back at the fight card and the results, we had a lot of great fights. We had a lot of great results, and I think that one of the biggest things we need to talk about is that Valente Martinez KO on myself, because it was
It was insane, dude.
something.
I Yeah, I mean, let's pull up the content team pickup because I mean, I know I picked bangers. I don't know if did anyone pick Valente Martinez like at all. And then he if they did, very few did. And he came out and knocks out Bobby Bangers in 2 rounds. Like it was quick. They did feel like long rounds, but it was pretty quick looking back on it and just kind of shocking, really. So,
We had two pickers pick Valente Martinez out of all the pickers, and even
mhm.
Martinez himself picked Bogby Bangers to win the fight.
Oh no.
We had Haas Carter picking Valente Martinez, and Marcus Kevlio also picked Martinez. So two of
No.
the two of the pickers picked Martinez, and it was a very good fight, despite getting my
Mhm.
tail handed to me.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, that didn't feel super one-sided. It was a great knockout, but it wasn't just absolute dominance from Martinez. Bangers had his impressive moments, but Martinez came in and managed to get him on the floor, and Bangers couldn't get up.
Yeah, it was just all all Martinez as I try and frame this up as good as possible for you guys. Um, but yeah, going through the picks, um, it'll be interesting to see that only two of us got Dennis versus Ray wrong.
Yeah, yeah, that was that was a strong first fight. Wasn't able to catch it live, but I came back a little later on, and it was just some good fights from the beginning. I Dennis, well, he was Clayton Cobb's first challenger. Is that right? So be sort of an unfair start to his career, but since then I think he's been one of the better fighters in that division, which is the pro welterweight, and so right in there with Sugar Ray Diamond, who, by the way, huge win against Hoss Carter. We were pretty split in the pick 'em there, but we did both pick Diamond, so good for him there too.
And before we get moving along with these picks, you've got a compliment from Clayton's wife himself. And I quote, "My wife
So
says your voice is hot, Bobby Black."
thank you, Mrs. What is it, Hatley Cobb, whatever. I appreciate it.
She might be a little startled to learn that we were both in high school. But moving on, we got Yates
Yeah,
versus
I'm
Sanders.
15 now.
Austin Sanders with a KO on Timothy Yates. Went 5 rounds. It was a long fight, but only
Yep.
one picker ended up picking Yates, and that was Marcus Kevlio, going 0 for 2 in his first two picks.
Yeah, I mean, Kevlio, we had a lot of new additions. This was my first week on the pick'em. Um, I, but we I think pulled together. It's fun to see just sort of what all these what all these guys are thinking week to week, fight to fight, because the league is still so young, man. It's so hard to come out and say definitively who you think is going to win with the sample size we have.
It really is, and I mean, it also doesn't help that I don't know if everyone in the league has experience with undisputed or necessarily combat sports
Right.
in general, so it is definitely interesting to just see how people pick, like myself, kind of just picking off of their gut feeling, um, not knowing much about combat sports. But it's it's really interesting just to see the fights in general as we move along. But we got our next match was Logan Wetzel versus Marcus Shakur, and Marcus Shakur pulled this one out at the end by unanimous decision.
Yep. I Shakur was my pick. I think you, me, and Nico were the only people to pick Marcus Shakur in that fight. I think Wetzel had a lot of hype coming into his debut last week against Babineau, and then he ends up losing that one. And I think a lot of people expected to see a big bounce back from Logan last night, and Shakur was having none of that. He came out and just outlasted Logan Wetzel.
Yeah, and I just realized you can't see this, so I'm starting the live stream in the Discord for you right now.
Oh yeah.
But it really was a great fight. Another one of those fights that just kind of let me just move that out of the way. Another one of those fights that just kind of, can I not hide this? Anyone that's a little more savvy with Discord, is there a way to hide this when I'm like, I don't know. I guess you guys just get to see the stream twice down here in the bottom left. But yeah, it was a great fight. I mean, both fighters took it to the end, and it was crazy to see Wetzel going down a second time, letting down a total of what? 9 pickers in 2 weeks.
Oh, oh yeah. Wetzel's been. I mean, you don't want to say he's been disappointing because that's just not true. He's given us some fantastic fights, but the fact that he's 0-2 is surprising, really. And I'm expecting him to get back on track in the coming weeks.
It'll definitely be something to watch. But our next match was yourself, Bobby Black, versus Walker Holman. And I gotta say, you surprised me in this fight.
Man, I surprised myself. Where were the knockouts? You know, we talked about that on the show last week. Bobby Black, all he does is either get knocked out or knock out his opponents, and that just didn't happen here. Bobby Black wins by unanimous decision. I was personally pretty excited to see this because it proved to me that Bobby can go the distance. He has the stamina to stick around in these big time fights. So I don't mind it, but not quite the not quite as fun for you viewers as some of the other ones in Black's past.
I mean, personally, I loved seeing it go this far. It was a back and forth fight all the way, both fighters giving it their all. I was waiting for you to get the KO. I thought you had definitely had the edge during the fight, and I
Yeah,
thought that you would have ended up with the KO, but it appears that Bang or Holman was able to hold out until the end, take it to a decision. Judges ruled in Black's favor, but it was another really good fight. All four of these fights were just electric to watch.
yeah, absolutely. It was a great undercard. And props to Holman, dude. There's Black put him on the floor a lot of times, and he got up a lot of times and managed to hold off till the end. So it's just impressive stamina from that guy.
There were a lot of people who just would not stay down, but one of those people is not Bobby Bangers, who came in here and let down what 2/3 of the content team in his fight against Valente Martinez.
Very disappointing. I we've touched on it earlier in the show. I mean, just surprising, very surprising. Um, Not sort of what we were expecting to see from that fight, and I think we may have underestimated Valente Martinez a little bit. So
We definitely did. I mean, he came out there swinging. I mean, both fighters were landing haymakers the entire match, but it ended up being Valente Martinez who not only got the KO on Bangers, but gave Marcus Kevlio his first correct pick as a picker.
yep, maybe not a super hot start for Kevlio here on the content team, but he pulled that one right. So um, yeah, Martinez just that was a great fight in terms of hits. I'm trying to improve our intro video for the fight nights, and so this fight is one that I'm gonna be coming back to clip for some content there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Valente might have heard that we rated him third in the Golden Gloves welterweight and just thought that he needed to be rated higher. Um, I just realized that these are updated after the last fight. Isn't where he was rated
Yeah,
before. I think he was down here closer to the Bobbies themselves, but I think Valente heard that and got um, just fire lit under his behind. But moving on now, we've got I think what was personally both of our fights of the night.
yep,
Babinow versus Pops.
yep. It won 60% or something of the popular vote for fight of the night. Was in my opinion by far the best battle we saw. When you've got a KO in round 8, I believe it was, I don't think it gets a lot better than that because you have a fight that goes for so long and then you finish it out how you love to see a fight finish with a someone on the floor unable to get up.
It
So congratulations to the Pops. That was me and Nico's pick, and just
yeah,
great fight for those guys.
it was a nice pull from you and Nico to pick CD Pops, and I gotta say, Babinow got up 8 times during this fight. It might have been more. I remember, I believe it was uh, myself and Clayton, or no, I think it was me and no, I think it was Smokey and Clayton in the box for this fight, and it was just Pops knocking Babinow down, but Babinow kept coming back like a little mosquito, refusing to stay down until finally in the 8th round.
And that is ridiculous. That's why we upgrade that courage stat. I believe is what it is. The one that helps you get up after taking those beatings. And Babineau with that win last week against Logan Wetzel has really established himself as one of the premier fighters in the league. And after this showing, I mean, we kind of know that when we are watching Babineau fight, it's going to be a classic.
Yeah, it that was our first, I believe, title fight of the night, and that was the Golden Gloves welterweight. And CD Pops, he sure earned it. He had to. I imagine he was getting a little frustrated with himself with Babineau getting up so many times.
Well, I'm sure. And I mean, you've got Pops who was being crowned the draw king after his first two, and he didn't like that. He's won his last two, and he was determined to start winning by KOs. Leave no doubt.
Yeah, it really was nice for Pops to just come out and just lay the wood on people. But moving on now, we got Smokey Johnson going down, or Smokey Woods, sorry. Clayton, you're rubbing off on me from last night. Smokey Woods going down to Noah Johnson in the second round. Another quick fight relative to all the others we had this night.
Yeah, I mean that was my pick. I was expecting big things from Johnson. It was another good fight. I mean, this one I think sandwiched between the two title fights. Or this wasn't a title fight, was it? But
I believe it was. I think this was the
oh, it
Golden
was
Glove heavyweight fight.
heavyweight. No, you're absolutely right. Yep. So, Mr. Johnson, I mean, and he has he upgraded since? I'm seeing him in the rankings in the pro heavyweight division. So Noah Johnson wins this Golden Gloves heavyweight division and decides to go pro.
Noah Johnson did announce before this fight that he was going to go pro. He wanted his shot at some of the big dogs like Clayton Cobb and Marcus Kevlio, and he proved why he can really take on whoever he wants at this point with how he handled Smokey Woods, um, who was not in the booth for this fight. He was sitting down, enjoying or attempting to enjoy his fight, but it was definitely a fight for the ages. And then we get to
And props
our
to Smokey, dude, because props to Smokey, man, for coming in last night and I mean, Clayton literally put out a just on the stream said, if you're interested in calling one of these fights, DM me. Let's get you in here. And Smokey really delivered. I thought. I think that was some good commentary and much better than I could have provided.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I think that Smokey was the best commentator last night. He was electric. Um,
Yep.
he was just amazing. And I see Smokey in chat saying that he disappointed the content team, but I think you made up for it with such a great analysis. You've really got a knack for the game, Smokey.
Yep. Absolutely. And if we want to move on to this Haas Carter and Sugar Ray Diamond fight, Sugar Ray defeats Haas in he KO'd him, I believe. Um, in let's see, in a couple of rounds. It went pretty long, not quite as long as some of these other ones, but it went 6 rounds. So um, a big time win for Sugar Ray to get that title. What'd you see, Bobby?
I mean, the big thing that stood out to me in this fight was Sugar Ray Diamond was just untouchable. He was floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, and he was just, I mean, despite Carter's best efforts, and I have to give props to Carter because he stood in there for a long time, delivering some blows. But Sugar Ray Diamond has some agility like no other, and I think it was fitting for him to win the pro welterweight division. Um, I mean, he went off. That's all there really is to say.
Agreed. I rewatching that fight. I mean, Diamond just he he's had a. I'm looking at the rankings. It says he's 1-0. I is that since he's pro'd up because I feel like I remember him maybe dropping his first fight a couple weeks back, but yeah, no, he comes out and wins the pro welterweight division. He wins that title fight against Haas Carter, who is not an easy draw by any means.
Yeah, and I think that if I can get um this search thing working, mention, come on, sugar. I'm gonna get it to work. Oh, it's not showing me his username. Shoot. Um, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way. Yeah, let's see here. We got Sugar Ray Diamond defeating Haas Carter in 4 rounds back in Fight Night 2. So he was around
Oh, I
before that.
lied. This is a replay, and I
Excuse
think
me?
that was his only other one. I do remember him having fought in one other one. I thought I remembered Haas getting that win, but um, wow. I mean, I guess it looks like Sugar Ray just really owns Haas.
Yeah, Sugar Ray has just had the edge on Haas Carter, who had to post his own defeat. That just feels like a
That's
salt in the
brutal.
wound. But Sugar Ray has just 2-0 against Haas Carter. Really had the edge there. I guess this should have been Carter versus Diamond too. Um, but it was just it was a Sugar Ray Diamond show. I'm sorry, Haas, you got worked.
Sugar Ray Diamond, one of the cooler fighters in the league, I would say. He's just got sort of an aura about him that makes it fun to watch when he steps into the ring.
Yeah, he really does just have that vibe. I mean, he's light on his feet. He's got the blue and white shorts that are honestly really cool. He just has that aura that you were talking about.
Yep, 100%. And then if we want to move on to the final fight of the night and the final fight of Clayton Cobb, Mr. Commissioner's career, Clayton Cobb defeats Marcus Kevlio, Marthius Kevlio, sorry, in an KO 5 rounds, I believe it went. So just it was a great showing by both fighters, but Cobb comes out and he dominates his last fight ever in traditional Cobb fashion.
It was an amazing showing from Clayton Cobb. Kevlio did everything he could. He really pushed it, really tried, and I think that it really showed his from his training arc that we've seen in the training montage channel on the Discord. It really showed how much he's been working trying to get to the level of Clayton Cobb, but ultimately Clayton just had the edge. He might be the best boxer we've seen on the server.
Well, and he might be the only fighter in IBSF history to that finishes his career undefeated, and maybe even the only guy who ever starts 4-0. I don't. We'll see how this plays out for. I think we've got still a couple of undefeated guys, but definitely the first IBSF legend. So it's good to see him get that win in the last fight. And I've mentioned it before. I mean, Marthius Kevlio is a fighter to watch in the future. This guy is. I mean, to go 5 rounds with Clayton Cobb is something that some of his other challengers couldn't do. So all the All the kudos to him.
Yeah, it really was electric to see Clayton come out, get the win before his retirement. Um, we will have an update on his Hall of Fame status later in the podcast, but for now, we have the fight of the night that did go to Pops versus Babinow, and I just gotta say that, I mean, this was my fight of the night since it happened way back in, what was it, our
Yeah,
first title fight? I mean,
it
I,
might
I
have been
just,
the first. Yeah,
I just, I just had a feeling that that was the fight of the night when it happened, and safe to say I was right.
yep, that was the popular pick. I mean, to have 3 out of 7 guys on the content team pick a fight as the fight of the night is impressive, and maybe not something that we're going to see very often, but just some good calls there. Let's see, Martinez versus Bangers was another pick that I thought was another great fight. I picked Johnson versus Woods, which I do think was maybe a little bit underrated, but um, definitely not quite on par with that Pops Babineau fight. That was one. I might. That's probably a top 2 fight we've seen in the IBSF.
Yeah, I mean, it might be top one for all I know, but
Yeah,
it
there's a conversation to be had.
it really was just an amazing fight. As were all of the fights that we had going on. We had the largest card in IBSF history, and it was just banger after banger, you could say.
To say that I like that Bobby Bangers pun, that Bobby Bangers pun. Go, but no, yeah, this first fight night did not disappoint at all. We had some fantastic fights. We had a lot of KOs, which I like to see as somebody who doesn't know too much about boxing. I like a good knockout, so I was not disappointed. And then Clayton Cobb with his last title fight, and you touched on it earlier. That he announced before the fight this would be his final, and so upon the closing of that one, we did send out a vote in the IBSF for his Hall of Fame status.
It really was amazing, just all of these fights. And our KO of the night was especially amazing to watch, and none of us predicted it, partially because I don't think any of us, or at least most of us, didn't even have Martinez winning, as only Kevlio and Haas Carter predicted that.
Yeah, I mean that was I think I voted that no knockout or no I didn't do it on here, but I think I voted that my knockout of the night in. I don't know, it might have been the pick'em, it might have been in the final result. I don't quite remember, but that was a very impressive KO. So
Yeah, looking back on it, Valente Martinez had 4 of 11 votes for KO of the night after he had the double knockdown on myself, and then CD Pops and Drake Babinow just ran through the fight of the night voting. I don't think there was a question there.
man, I mean 60% voted on CD Pops versus Drake Babineau, which is may not sound like a ton, but for I don't know that we'll see anything like that number for a long time because there are just so many great fights every night, and there were so many great fights tonight. That's not to take away from any of the other ones. It's just that fight specifically was maybe the best we've seen in history of the league.
Yeah, no, I mean, Drake Babineau has definitely trained himself well. It'll be exciting to see all of these fighters going forward, except for the one and only Clayton Cobb, who, as of right now, has enough votes for the Hall of Fame entry. 2 people voted against it, being
Man, who voted no? Marquise
Austin
Kevlio. I
Sanders
think
and
Kevlio might
Marquez
be so
Kevlio.
mad from last night's fight.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would be angry if I was Kevlio too. I mean, going through all of that training, getting the Japanese tattoos and everything, just to go out and get knocked out in, what was it, 5 rounds?
5 rounds.
I would have been a little annoyed too, but the rest of us, I think including Nico Dennis even, uh,
Even
supported.
Nico, wow, that's great sportsmanship from Nico. We know he and Cobb have had a little bit of a rivalry, but no, the vice commissioner of the IBSF, he knows some ball and he's ready to give Cobb his Hall of Fame nod.
I lied. Nico Dennis did not, in fact, vote, potentially in an act of
Oh brother,
protest.
Nico, go vote.
I heard that he can't really type right now, but has this open in a background tab. Nico, what's the deal? Are we protesting? Like, come on, man. Um,
Sounds like a little bit of beef. We'll have to sort that out.
yeah, we might need to take Cobb out of retirement just to teach Nico a lesson again. Um, but Clayton Cobb, I think it's deserved. I think that he had uh, one of the best careers out of any fighter so far. I mean, he's won 4 fights, I believe, all by KO. And that's just a insane stat line.
Yep, just straight dominance from Commissioner Cobb. I mean, we that sort of might have been expected, but when we look back on this career in months, years, whatever, I think we're gonna see Clayton Cobb as maybe the greatest to do it in this league. And I think there might be conversations down the line, hypotheticals. Oh, would so and so KO Commissioner Cobb? I think Clayton. I think it'd be funny if Cobb would come out of retirement a couple of times for very deserving challengers, but that's just a suggestion. So if that is the last time we'll ever see Clayton take the ring, then it was an impressive showing and a great career.
It is to be known that the women's division is back, and Melissa Cobb will be boxing in that. So we aren't we haven't totally escaped from the Cobb action, and I'm sure that Nico is punching the air somewhere right now, hearing that.
Absolutely, it's great to have the women's division back though. Only gone for I think it was just a week, so if we can continue to grow that, that'll be great for the league, great for the game, and just excited to have Melissa Cobb back in the ring. I'm sure she'll be a terror in that women's division.
It is unfortunate that it did have to pop out for the super fight, but it is officially back, and it is going to be amazing to see. I enjoyed the previous fight that went on, but I really do think that the women's division is one of the more unique ones, and also just one of the cooler ones to see. It's a nice break from big sweaty dudes punching each other, to see uh, other people fighting.
Big sweaty women punching each other. It's a good change of pace.
Very nice change of pace. As we move on here, we do have new fighter rankings released. And let's just start at the bottom with Golden Gloves welterweight CD Pops officially claiming the championship with his KO on Drake Babineau.
I want it known. I'm coming for him. I want CD Pops. I think there's some. This is one of the deeper divisions. It's the one that both you and I are in, and just great fights here. These are usually undercard battles, but uh, good stuff that I'm seeing out of here. It's hard to believe Walker Holman doesn't have a win yet. I have to think it's coming sometime soon. But yeah, all props to Pops for his fights. After starting 0-0-2, it's kind of demoralizing to try and come back from that. But he's done so quickly with that those 2 wins back to back, and now he's the holder of the Golden Gloves welterweight title. So
Yeah, it just seems that CD Pops looks unstoppable right now. And it is interesting to see Holman, the only person winless in this category. He does have a draw, and I'm sure that win will come sooner rather than later. Other than that, we got Valente Martinez and Drake Babineau looking like the two who could threaten CD Pops for that championship.
Yep, we talked about it earlier. Valente may be flying a little bit under the radar, but it's hard to ignore him now that he's 2-1 with that huge knockout on Mr. Bangers last night. So keep an eye on him.
Yeah, meanwhile, in the pro welterweight division, there has been some movement. Nico Dennis gets his first win, is no longer in last, and Gunnar Ray will be taking that third spot in the pro welterweight, with Sugar Ray Diamond in his performance, his amazing performance against Haas Carter, taking that championship, leaving Haas as the runner up.
Yep, it's a younger division. We've got some of the two most experienced guys only have 3 fights under their belts, whereas for the Golden Gloves we have a few guys with four, and so just we talked about it earlier. The league is still so young and the sample size so small that it's really hard to make any definitive arguments about this division. But um, Dennis and Carter, obviously, both 1 and 2, and they're in second and third place. So uh, I'm kind of curious to see, will Sugar Ray Diamond continue to dominate that, or is somebody else going to get it together and start to challenge him?
It will be interesting to watch. I think that right now it looks like Sugar Ray Diamond might have a chokehold on that pro welterweight division. He just seems to be running away with it. Meanwhile, in our Golden Gloves heavyweight, we have three newcomers, all tied for fifth with 0-0. That's Bruce Dane, Mickey Morant, and Mikey Knuckles. I think that all three of them are going to be great, and it'll be really fun to watch. And then we got Timothy
Absolutely.
Yates, Logan Wetzel at 0-2, and then our top three, no champion right now, with Noah Johnson waving up to pro heavyweight, but Smokey Woods, Marcus Shakur, and Austin Sanders taking those top three spots.
Yeah, that this is a fun division. We got 3 new additions this week, which makes it the largest in the uh, in the IBSF. So that'll be fun to see, and some three good names from our new guys: Bruce Dane, Mickey Morant, and Mikey Knuckles. Um, and that brings us to 5 members of that division who are winless, with Wetzel and Yates both being 0-2. Um, and so just a lot of areas for guys to really start to prove themselves. One win has you climb the board so far in this division. There's going to be some great bouts we see in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I feel bad for whichever of those five fighters has to do battle with one of the proven fighters who already has a win, but it's definitely going to be a great division to watch going forward. I mean, we saw how all of the fights went yesterday. Seeing Yates, Wetzel, Sanders, Shakur, Woods, all of them just electric. Um, anyway, as
Oh
we
yeah,
move on,
100%.
as we move on to the pro heavyweight division, only three fighters in this division, with the Hall of Famer Clayton Cobb retiring. We got Martlius Kevlio at 0-1, who just fought in the title fight against Cobb. Noah Johnson, who is 2-0 in the Golden Gloves heavyweight, and Donovan Allen, a newcomer who has not spent any time in the Golden Gloves division.
Went straight to pro. I've got to respect it. I'm so curious to see what matchup we end up getting next week because there will only be one, barring a new entry. Um, all three of these guys, though, I'm interested in seeing. Can Johnson compete in the pro division? Can Kevlio is he as good as it feels like he is going to be? And then Donovan Allen, the newcomer, just no idea what to expect out of him.
Yeah, we may have a couple heavyweight title fights coming next week as we get ready for our Fight Night 4, unless we have another supercard, which would be electric. But we will have, presumably, this is not confirmed, this is your certified bangers take, that we will have two heavyweight title fights next week.
But there you go. And I mean, for a little speculation, I know we've sort of talked about with throwing around the idea of maybe multiple fight nights in a week. I'd love to see that too if we're not going to do big fight nights. But yeah, just so much promise from the league this week. I've said it probably 5 times now, but just not a lot of fights so far in the on a large scale. The most experienced fighters only have 4 fights under their belts, and so as we get into those the coming weeks, we're going to get some really interesting divisions starting to build.
It'll be so much fun to watch. Um, with that being said, we've kind of debunked everything from the supercard. So Horns, I just gotta ask, anything else you got to say to the people?
And not really. I appreciate y'all, those in chat. It looks like we got like 5 people in here right now. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been enjoying doing this. I know, uh, David, you have as well. And it's just, I mean, I'm learning a lot every night. Boxing has never really been my forte, but getting on here and talking these fights has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely has been a new experience for both of us doing this podcast thing. I think both of us are more football guys than boxing, but it's been a lot of fun uh, being on the content team, doing all of that, and I think that it really will be great to see how the league grows going forward. And I think I know myself, I am very grateful to be such a big part of it.
Absolutely. And we're going to look at trying to have some of you guys on here on the show. Um, in the over the next couple of weeks because I know we've had a couple of people reach out with interest uh, and stuff like that, and I mean, I know I'm curious to see what some of the fighters have to say. We had Clayton Cobb, the commissioner, on last week and got a lot of good um, information on the state of the league, the future of the league, and stuff. And so I'm excited to kind of see if we can grow this podcast at all.
Yeah, no, it has been a lot of fun. I'd like to thank my partner, Mr. Horns, also known as Bobby Bangers. Thanks to all of you guys who are tuning in to watch this live and all of you who watch the VOD on either YouTube or Twitch. And we will definitely be looking to get some other people on as guests. I mean, we had our own commissioner, Clayton Cobb, in as a guest last week, and it's going to be really exciting to get other people in as guests for what is hopefully going to be a very successful podcast.
That's all I've got. If you have any more closing thoughts, it was a great fight night, and I'm excited we get to watch some of these fighters for the in this league.
Yeah, it was a great fight night. But with that being said, that will be it for this edition of the Bobcast. I am Bobby Bangers, also known as David Climbs 3, and on behalf of myself and my partner Horns, also known as Bobby Black, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of the Bobcast, and we will see you guys hopefully next week.